Alright, this is a Palworld 1.0 review for the PlayStation 5. I'm going to start off with the combat. The combat, aside from a bug or two, is overall really fun. You can let your pals fight it out turn by turn, and switching your pals in and out recovers a good amount of health over time. The player character combat is decent, not great, but it works, and you can join the fight with a bat or a gun, dodge attacks, and, help your pal out a bit. Some pals also passively dodge attacks, like Anubis or Lunaris teleports to dodge or set up an attack sometimes. The pal attack animations and sounds are all done really well. The variety and uniqueness of all the pals and their attacks is really good here. You can fly and ride your pals, even mount them in combat and use their abilities while also firing your gun at the same time. It's pretty fun. And the pal sphere sounds and animations are also really satisfying, and throwing it feels good, especially with the homing of the sniper upgrade for it. Next up, the progression. There's a basic main mission system that takes you to each region and boss fight. Then you have side quests, which are mostly repetitive fetch quests or to show your pal to a guy and he gives you some random but useful stuff. There's a few interesting side quests where people ask you to help them fight a nearby boss or enemy, or to help rescue their pal or something from a nearby base. There's a lot of useful stuff to unlock: guns, gliders, crafting setups to make your own balls, gear and food, saddles and weapons for pals, electric upgrades, beds and storage, pouches to increase inventory, furnace for pals to cook ingots, grenade and rocket launchers, energy guns, and a wing pack you can unlock at the end game. You can also get player stat upgrades from items you find in the world. You can upgrade health, attack, speed, stamina, jump height, ball power. For pal progression, you can level them up to 80, catch multiple type of the same pal, find lucky pals, breed the perfect pal with good passive skills, level them up, then rank them up with the breed condenser by basically killing a bunch of the same pal and upgrading your main pal with it. So yeah, level them up, rank them up, take them into hard boss fights for the best loot. You can also upgrade your pal's base skills with special books so they just work faster and you just have faster production. You can also try and catch all the pals, which isn't that hard. I think there's like 300. The pals in your party also level up equally to each other, and I like this because it lets you grow and try out more pals without having to do a crazy grind. I didn't mind it when Pokemon first started doing this, and I like it that Palworld does it too. And the player leveling is fast, which I like, but it's also cluttered with a lot of technology upgrades you have to scroll through every time you want to craft stuff. I do wish we can combine or upgrade weapons and technology instead. Now I'm going to talk about the building. The building of this game is decent and it works for everything you need, but I have a lot of issues with it. There's no proper view, like a top-down view, to see my base radius when setting it up. Moving objects in the base is very tedious, each one needing a manual disassembly and transfer of every single item inside if they have storage. Building custom structures in general is pretty janky and not that flexible. So I just like I said, building everything on the ground, which is fine, but I wish I had more space. Next up, the grind and the resource farming. There's always something useful to do in this game. It doesn't ever feel too tedious, except for the base building, like I said. And I don't know the best way to explain this, so I'll just take you through some of the routines and stuff that I do. So I'll go out, fight and catch new pals. I'll look for upgrade effigies for my character. Look for caves, towers, buildings, bosses, come back, store all my loot, set up new pals to work at the base and start production. Over time, as I find faster base workers, I'll automate more production and storage. All I have to do is refill the resources and restart production when I get there. I was never stuck mining or cutting trees for a tedious amount of time. Sure, I'd be overweight a couple times and have to slowly get back to my base, but I'd have so much resources that I could set up to produce ore and wood and farm, so I could never have to go out and do it again. So back to the routine. From there, I start exploring the second half of the island, which has higher level pals and even better loot. So I was pretty much doing that until now I'm at endgame, and I'm doing pretty much the same thing but at a higher level and in different areas for a different purpose. So in the beginning and the middle of the game, I was doing all this farming to set up my bases and set up my initial production, right? So now I'm hyper focusing on certain production to maximize specific resources for gear and breeding potential to breed the perfect pals. And that's not just the pals in my party, breeding the perfect pals for each of my bases, which is, I think, 15 pals per base. And then I'm going to try to basically breed an army of god tier level power pals for expedition runs, because you can send up to 100 pals on an expedition to get a bunch of resources and get up to like 1,000% extra resources, right? But the minimum is 20, but I also want to just go in and get 1,000% extra resources, so that's my goal. So yeah, that's about it for the grind. There's a lot of stuff to do even at endgame, and I was never really bored. Next up, I want to talk about the story. I already mentioned the story a little bit in progression, but I want to say that this game deserves a true story adventure sequel on par with Pokemon. I want a beautiful and unique music soundtrack for all the routes, caves, cities, more NPC life to interact and battle with, puzzles to unlock different areas and unique side quests, and a proper story playthrough. Because I think the writers, artists, and developers made a really interesting world and narrative, and even some really interesting endgame side quests, which I really liked. And which is why I'm saying this. I can see the potential of the story, and I want to experience that in the best way possible. So I really hope they put in the work to make a sequel rather than No Man's Sky like updates. I think Palworld can be an amazing franchise of games that they really take it to another level. Next up for the music, this game barely has any music, and you know, since it's inspired by Pokemon, I say just go for it. Add a bunch of beautiful Pokemon inspired music to all the different routes you travel, the caves, the boss fights, the city areas, and like I said with the story, it can make the next Palworld game feel and sound like a true adventure. Next up for the bugs, pals sometimes don't attack enemies, especially in the Pantherless endgame boss fight where even if you have a pal that flies, they just don't attack the boss if they're nearby him. I'll still beat Pantherless and caught him a few times by riding them out and attacking him that way, but it's still annoying. Your pals should still attack them, but both your water and your flying pals at least. And next up, disassembling objects. Send some items to storage instead of my inventory, which makes rebuilding objects and moving objects or moving stuff to a new base really tedious and annoying. And the wing cell fuel depletes an entire cell even if I only use a portion of it. Next up, the performance. Performance is pretty mixed. The game stutters pretty bad when I'm picking up multiple items at once. The popping is pretty bad. Pals, buildings, and objects pretty often appear when I'm only within about 50 to 100 meters of it. But most of the important stuff you can see from over 1,000 meters away, and it really helps the exploration feel good. So yeah, draw distance is kind of mixed, but it's enough to see everything you need at the moment, especially if you're up high. The performance, like frame rate, is overall decent. No big frame drops. Feels like 50 to 60 most of the time. It does slow down a bit around big groups of enemies, and combat feels like I'll say 30. I'll say between like 30 to 40. And for crashing, I only crashed a single time, and it was my first time going into the biggest island in the game with 5 different biome types on it and a lot more bigger groups of higher level pals. It didn't happen again, so I can forgive it. For the score, I'm giving Palworld a strong 7.5 out of 10. I love the pals, the progression, the world, and the grind, but there's also some bugs and performance issues. The building system is annoying, and the NPC and human life is really limited, and there's no music to help fit the exploration and, you know, make it, you know, feel not that empty. And for the summary, the player combat is good and the pal combat is great. The progression is a bit cluttered, but almost everything is useful or fun to use. And there's a big variety of stuff to unlock, upgrade, and find. The building is the weakest part about this game. It's decent and it works, but it's also annoying and tedious trying to move items around or reassemble stuff in a different area, set up a new base, or relocate bases. The grind and pal catching is the strongest part about the game. It's a satisfying and addictive, rewarding grind, especially catching pals that are all unique and have a lot of different purposes and personalities. It adds a deeper connection to the game that I've spent time fighting with my pals and fighting and working with them at the base. It just adds a lot to the game. The story is basic, but it's interesting enough to keep me invested through the end game, which, to be fair, the end game quest is pretty peak. But yeah, the story is enough to keep you invested in the end game and help you guide through all the regions, so you're never really that lost. Every time I was lost or didn't know where to get something that I needed, I just go to where the story is, and it took me to the resources or items that I needed. The game barely having any music is pretty disappointing, but there's at least a decent amount of ambience, you know, with the forest and the pal birds chirping. There's some decent combat music, but not much else. There's a few bugs, but nothing that annoyed me enough to quit. Performance is mixed with some stuttering and view distance issues, but it's balanced out pretty well, and I only crashed one time, and frame drops are not that bad. So yeah, conclusion, great game with some bad. It's got a lot more good things going for it. They got a bright future ahead if they do bigger and better sequels, which I prefer the series do a sequel instead of No Man's Sky style updates. A proper pal taming adventure with, you know, more interesting characters, voice acting, a better building system. That's all I want for this game, man. It could be so good. I'm waiting for the sequel.